You know, the honeybee has been a source of wonder for centuries. There are even ancient texts that suggest we can learn a thing or two from them. So today, we're going to dive into their incredible world to see what a single colony, this tiny city in a box, can teach us about engineering, society, and maybe even life itself.
And this really brings us to the central mystery of it all. How on earth does a creature with a brain the size of a single sesame seed manage to build an entire civilization? The feats of engineering and communication they pull off are just staggering. So let's explore that. Okay, so the first thing you need to get your head around is that a beehive isn't just a bunch of individual insects flying around. It's what scientists call a superorganism. Think of it this way. Each bee is like a single cell, and the entire colony acts like one single coordinated body. The whole is so much greater than the sum of its parts. And the first place you see this collective genius is the home they build for themselves. It is an absolute masterpiece of engineering. Bees instinctively build their honeycomb using hexagons. And this isn't random, not at all. It's basically a perfect solution. Mathematically, the hexagon is the most efficient shape possible. It lets them store the most honey and raise the most young, all while using the absolute least amount of wax to build it.
Just take a look at this comparison. If they use circles, you'd get all this wasted space in between. But with hexagons, every single wall is shared. There is literally zero wasted space. And since making wax costs the bees a ton of energy, that efficiency is absolutely crucial for survival. It's a design so perfect, aerospace engineers have actually copied it.
So if that's the house, what about the society living inside? Well, it all revolves around one single, indispensable member.
Get this. A single queen bee can lay up to 2,000 eggs in one day. That's often more than her entire body weight every single day. She is the literal engine of the whole colony.
Now, every bee starts out the same way. They go from an egg to a larva to a pupa and finally to an adult. But here's the thing. Not all female bees are created equal. So what's the secret? What makes a queen a queen?
The answer comes down to this one incredible substance, royal jelly. All female larvae get fed royal jelly for their first few days. But if the nurse bees keep feeding a larva that special diet, something amazing happens. It doesn't become a worker. It develops into a brand new, fully functioning queen. In the hive, diet is destiny.
And royal jelly is unbelievably complex. I mean, it's packed with antioxidants and all sorts of benefits. At its core are these huge protein molecules, perfectly sequenced chains of hundreds of smaller parts. Now, the source material we're looking at makes a key point here. The odds of a molecule this specific and this functional just forming by random chance are, well, they're astronomically low. Okay, so that intricate biology is one piece of the puzzle. But now let's see how it all comes together in the coordinated actions of the entire superorganism.
This idea is often called the hive mind, but it's not like the queen is some dictator barking out orders. Nope. In fact, the worker bees can decide to make a new queen all on their own. It's more like a distributed intelligence, this incredible groupthink that guides tens of thousands of individuals toward one common goal, the survival of the hive.
And maybe the most amazing example of this groupthink in action is temperature control. The developing young, the brood, they have to be kept in a super narrow temperature range, right around 93 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about 34 Celsius.
So how do they pull this off? It's an amazing coordinated effort. If it gets too cold, they all huddle together in a tight ball and vibrate their flight muscles to generate heat. If it gets too hot, teams of bees line up at the entrance, fanning their wings in perfect unison to create their own air conditioning system. And if it gets really hot, they'll actually go out, collect water, and spread it inside the hive to create an evaporative cooler. Incredible!
Now, to pull all this off, you need some seriously sophisticated communication. But bees have a pretty big problem. How do you give someone directions when you're in total darkness? So, imagine a forager bee finds this amazing patch of flowers, but it's miles away from home. She can't exactly draw a map for her sisters back in the pitch-black hive. She needs a way to communicate the exact distance and direction.
And this is how she does it, the famous waggle dance. The angle of her dance tells the other bees which direction to fly, relative to the sun. The length of time she does the waggle part tells them exactly how far to go. And how intensely she dances tells them how good the food is. It's a pre-programmed symbolic language, so complex its discovery actually earned a Nobel Prize.
This amazing communication also lets the entire colony do something spectacular: reproduce itself. When a hive gets too crowded, it divides through a process called swarming. The old queen leaves with about half the workers to find a new home, while the bees that stay behind raise a new queen to keep the original colony going. The superorganism has literally replicated itself.
So, we've seen this incredible order, right? From the honeycomb engineering to the royal jelly to the waggle dance. This leads the source material we're drawing from to ask a much bigger question. Where does all of this complexity and purpose actually come from?
The source, which comes from a physicist's point of view, argues that the basic forces of nature, like gravity or electromagnetism, are simple. They just push and pull. There's no inherent intelligence in them that would organize atoms into something as ridiculously complex as a bee, let alone a cooperative hive mind.
Based on that line of reasoning, the source presents its conclusion. It suggests that just saying, "Oh, nature did it," doesn't really explain anything. Instead, it views the intricate, purposeful systems inside the honeybee colony as evidence that points toward an intelligent designer, a brilliant creator.
And the source adds one last point for us to think about. A bee's society is rigid, right? It's all driven by biochemical rules. It's a system that works for their survival. But for humans, it suggests, cooperation shouldn't have to be forced. Our motivation can come from something higher, free will and love. And that really leaves us with a final thought. When you look at a system this complex, this functional, this beautifully ordered, all of it operating on the instructions inside a brain the size of a sesame seed, what does that suggest to you?